Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee claimed several times during a hearing that 4 members of the Trump campaign were the subjects of Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, investigations. Lee's claims have not been publicly confirmed, but were also not explicitly denied during the hearing in question, with a Justice Department lawyer cautioning against the discussion of classified information. As of now, the government has only confirmed that Carter Page, a tangential advisor to the Trump campaign, was under surveillance with FISA warrants during the Obama administration. The warrants were reportedly obtained citing the discredited anti-Trump dossier produced by Fusion GPS and funded by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Committee. Lee made the claim about FISA and the 4 Trump campaign members while she was posing questions to former Attorney General Loretta Lynch during a December 2018 House Judiciary Committee hearing. A transcript of the hearing was released online last week. During the hearing, Lee posed the following question to Lynch, referencing George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn as also being under FISA investigation, emphasis added. I want to talk about the spring, summer, and autumn of 2016. Carter Page, at the time, was suspected of being a Russian asset. George Papadopoulos had told the Australian ambassador that Russians had Hillary emails. Paul Manafort had been named Trump campaign manager, Michael Flynn was Trump's chief national security advisor and foreign policy advisor, and just yesterday, had a continuance in his sentencing. One thing that all of these persons had in common was that each was the subject of a FISA court investigation, which we now know, and all were directly connected to Trump. As Attorney General, you had the authority to oversee FISA application process. Is that correct? Yes, was Lynch's reply. Lynch did not dispute Lee's claim about 4 Trump campaign officials being under FISA probes before Justice Department lawyer Bradley Weinsheimer interjected. I would object to that question as it potentially gets into possibly classified information, and also equities in an ongoing investigation, Weinsheimer stated, notably also without denying Lee's claim. The conversation continued as follows. Lee, I beg to differ. It is a simple question that says as Attorney General, you had the authority to oversee FISA process. It did not ask in particular about any individual name. Mr. Weinsheimer, the preface of your question leads into the final question you asked, and I wouldn't want this witness answer to be in any way interpreted as agreeing with any part of the preface of the question. Mr. Nadler, the preface of the question being that as Attorney General, you had the authority to oversee a FISA application, is that? Mr. Weinsheimer, no. The preface of the question was all of the indications about the various people that may or may not be under investigation, okay, the whole lead up to the question. Again, Weinsheimer does not specifically deny the claim about FISA investigations of 4 people tied to the Trump campaign. Instead he used phraseology referring to various people that may or may not be under investigation. Lee pressed on, wrongly implying that the names of Manafort, Flynn and Papadopoulos are in the public domain in relation to FISA investigations. She states, if I may recite, these were simply statement of facts that are in the public domain. They are in the newspaper about Mr. Page, Mr. Papadopoulos, Mr. Manafort, Mr. Flynn. I can simply ask with the idea of the Attorney General's authority, does she have authority over FISA applications? That is a simple question. Weinsheimer replies, I have no objection to that question. The attorney then says that only Page's FISA warrants are in the public domain, once again not denying that there may have been other FISA investigations. In late October 2016, then FBI Director James Comey signed the first of 3 successful FISA applications to obtain warrants to spy on Page. The second and third were renewal applications, since a FISA warrant must be renewed every 90 days. Weinsheimer schools Lee. There has been a public release of one FISA application that relates to Carter Page. If you wanted to ask a specific question about that, I wouldn't have an objection to it, but just because something is in the public domain does not mean that as the former Attorney General, this witness can talk about it, because it could relate to classified information, and it could also affect equities relating to an ongoing investigation. Lee retorts that all 4 names are in the public domain. Well, let me work to compromise in response to your concern, but to put on record that I am not asking the Attorney General about the details of FISA. I am listing names that are in the public domain, and I am not asking her to assess that. I am asking her if names were released in an ongoing investigation in the Department of Justice, would that have impacted a campaign? And is that just a general question hypothetically about any names, not specific names? asks Weinsheimer. I will cede to the general question of any names, Lee replies. Finally, Lynch answers the question but doesn't say anything about Lee's claims of 3 other Trump campaign members being under FISA investigation. She replies, yes. Thank you, Congresswoman. Certainly, the release of the names of anyone under investigation or particular surveillance can do great harm in a number of ways to that person's reputation, to people's trust in the department's ability to maintain confidences, and if anyone were, in fact, affiliated with a campaign for office, certainly there could be aspersions cast on the campaign because of their affiliation, as well. Later in the testimony, Representative Jim Jordan, Republican Ohio, said that he was told by the FBI director that the agency previously opened investigative files, but not FISA applications, on 4 individuals, some associated with Trump's 2016 campaign. Jordan stated, they opened a file on 4 individuals. My understanding is, if we can correct the record, not a FISA application, but a file on 4 individuals. And those individuals, at least my knowledge is, some of those individuals were associated with the Trump campaign. Speaking on MSNBC last week, former FBI General Counsel James Baker would not say one way or the other whether the dossier was utilized to conduct surveillance on anyone else from the Trump campaign. Baker said he was not familiar with what else the government has confirmed on the subject. I don't think I should comment on that. I don't know what else the government has confirmed, he said. I don't want to confirm or deny anything about other potential FISA applications. Sunday on ABC's This Week, 2020 presidential hopeful South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg said President Donald Trump's proposal to pardon some service members accused of war crimes was a slander against veterans. Partial transcript as follows. Reddit's, I want to go to comments that the president made about service members who have either been accused of war crimes or convicted of war crimes. He said we teach them to fight and they get treated unfairly, and he is going to look at those cases to see if perhaps they can be punished. Buttigieg, the idea that being sent to war turns you into a murderer is exactly the kind of thing that those of us who have served have been trying to beat back for more than a generation. For a president, especially a president who never served, to say he's going to come in and overrule that system of military justice undermines the very foundations, legal and moral, of this country. Frankly, his idea that being sent to fight makes you automatically into some kind of war criminal is a slander against veterans that could only come from somebody who never served. On this week's broadcast of Fox News Sunday, Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, said Speaker Nancy Pelosi's DCA job is at risk. Graham said, Nancy Pelosi is riding a bucking, wild bronco called the Democratic caucus. 70% of the Democratic base wants President Trump impeached. She knows that impeachment would be political suicide because there's no reason to impeach the president. So she's trying to keep the party intact. If she goes down the impeachment road, Republicans take back the House, we keep the Senate, President Trump gets reelected. But her job is very much at risk. So what I think is going to happen here, I think that she's going to be driven towards, if she goes down that road, it will be suicide for the Democratic Party. He added, from President Trump's point of view, I disagree with the idea that you can't work with them while they're doing things like this. You have to work with him. If you can't control, Mr. President, what the Democrats do, but you can control what you do, and you need to leave this country to better bridges and roads and lower prescription drug prices. They say no to you, that will help you. They say yes with you and work with you, that will help the country. So I don't believe that the idea of working with the Democrats should be taken off the table because they're going too far. Failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton on Saturday falsely accused President Donald Trump of spreading a doctored video of Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Clinton said Trump had posed a constitutional crisis to the country. Just look at what's happened in the last 24 hours. The president and his cronies have been running around spreading a doctored video of Nancy Pelosi, she said. Now it is sexist trash, but it's also a sign that Trump is running scared. Clinton commented at a Harris County Democratic Party event in Houston, Texas, and triumphantly shared a video of her own speech on Twitter. On Thursday, Trump shared a Fox Business highlight video of Pelosi's rhetorical stammers during a press conference and suggested that something was off about her speech, as she held up 2 fingers while listing off 3 points. Trump said Friday he was responding in kind to Pelosi after she suggested that the president was unwell and called for a family intervention. She made horrible statements. She knows they're not true. She said terrible things. So I just responded in kind, He said to reporters. "Look, you think Nancy is the same as she was? She's not. Maybe we can all say that," President Donald Trump ripped television actor Jussie Smollett on Saturday, after the actor's embarrassing hoax accusing Trump supporters of attacking him. In addition to great incompetence and corruption, the Smollett case in Chicago is also about a hate crime, Trump wrote on Twitter. Trump commented during his trip to Japan, at about 5:43 a.m. where he was staying. He referred to Smollett's phony story that he was attacked by two Trump supporters who shouted, "This is MAGA country," before they accosted him in the city of Chicago. That turned out to be a total lie, had nothing to do with MAGA country, Trump wrote. Serious stuff, and not even an apology to millions of people. Although Chicago prosecutors dropped the 16 felony charges against Smollett for staging the fake attack, an Illinois judge ordered Thursday that his criminal case file be unsealed for the public to see.